he was this droid inside, some version of him that was unable to talk, react, be. He was constrained by programming, and he was free.
He's the voice and soul of one of Star Wars' most beloved droids. Alan Tudyk returns as K-2SO in Andor Season 2, and in this Roundtable interview, we talk about stepping back into the role, how this version of K2 fits into a much darker story, and what makes Star Wars droids so unforgettable. Joining us for this conversation are our friends Alex and Molly from Star Wars Explained, Gustavo from Triad of the Force, and Jason from Blast Points. Once again, just a huge thank you to Lucasfilm, everybody there, for this opportunity to be part of this roundtable conversation. Enjoy.
So you've had the rare opportunity to play a character now, and we've seen his death first and then his birth.
Right.
Yeah. So now going into Andor Season 2 and knowing the full spectrum of K-2SO's life, did that inform the way you played K2 coming back in Season 2?
There's a jump in time there, It was different. Season 2 is different from Rogue One. Just in the style of storytelling and, the pace of it, and it's so granular because it can be. And that's the way he's telling the story, which is so fun to watch for me. I got joy out of just watching things go slowly and unexpectedly slowly, and seems to go to different places you don't expect them to go. But when we made the movie, it was a little bit more, it was a film, so we had 2 hours to tell the whole story. And honestly, it was a little looser because our script kept changing. I think I could say this. The script kept changing. We were a little bit, flying by the seat of our pants. There was this weird period in the middle where that happened. And so during that time, there was a lot of improvising and stuff because we had time. And with Tony's, with Andor, I was able to keep my idea of K-2SO's birth, sort of like his being raised by Cassian, intact, because we don't see it. So it wasn't removed and written by someone else. So I was able to keep my idea there. So I was able to maintain continuity in my character. But the things that he does are very murdery. It's pretty murdery.
Yeah.
And
Human Shield.
Yeah, Human Shield. It's just it's shocking, and it's just great. It does make sense why Cassie wouldn't give him a blaster in the beginning.
Yeah.
I don't know if I trust this guy. There's even a line where he's like, "Now have I shown that I can be trusted, or are we trusted?" And he doesn't answer me. Doesn't say anything.
Yeah, there's a scene where K2 is talking about a parade that he was in a Coruscant, and he's almost talking about it like wistfully.
Yeah.
After his reprogramming, what does K2 think of the Empire? Does he kind of miss any part of it? Was he like looking back fondly on being near the Emperor?
I think it was. I think it was the Emperor was a star.
Yeah.
It was something to be proud of. He got to see the Emperor. I think his devotion is to Cassian mainly. And that's where he'll do everything for Cassian.
Is that because he gave him that freedom?
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's I always saw him as kind of a father figure. And there was so much in Rogue One about the father, her father. And I always saw Cassian as that, And yeah, because he gave him his life, he freed him. I always saw it as a free. Like, he was this droid inside, some version of him that was unable to, talk, react, be. He was constrained by programming, and he was free.
you have mentioned kind of your own internal continuity, and that is something that I so badly wish that we had gotten to see was the early days of K2 and Cassian. And do you have any headcanon of how that went and how they developed a level of trust?
I have an idea of a scene where this is ridiculous. Cassian, see, I think we should have another series.
Yes.
We'll call it K2 and up. And it's 2 months and up. It's or 2 weeks and up. And you know, Cassian's there, the feet, come on, open up the exhaust port. Stay on target. Here comes the X-Wing. I just imagine it was a lot of mistakes, a lot like a child or a dog that is making messes on the carpet, you know, that he would have to make additional adjustments from the original thing that happened that he wasn't involved in. That there was a scene in that, I think it was my audition scene, where K2, they're landing on some planet that has a magnetic field that when he goes through, it scrambles him, and it speeds him up and it slows him down, and he loses it and goes crazy. And I loved that scene. It was great. He starts to not make sense. He was like, "What do you, K2? What's going on?" And he was this, and then it went. He's just saying a bunch of nonsense. So that still exists in his. That happened in those. You know, something went off. You know, he spilled a cup of coffee on him. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe some Revnog, something.
Yeah.
It would have been great to get a montage of him just like learning how to do everything.
Racing.
Yeah.
It's first steps.
Yeah.
K2 too furious.
So yeah, K2 fast, K2 furious. We did go to Japan, and it was a little Tokyo drift happening there, but we didn't get the whole. Yeah, we didn't. That's maybe for a animation when Lucasfilm is way out of ideas.
So you've performed and voiced a whole bunch of different types of characters. What makes K-2SO so unique?
I don't know. I mean, there was part of a script that got changed. There was a scene where we had landed the U-wing, and Cassian has a quick conversation with somebody who's a general or somebody senior to him, and he turns to me and says, "Droid, get those crates." And I said, "No." And I walk away. And that, when I read that, I was like, that's who he is. That's who he is. And even when Cassian, when Jen first comes in, or when first I slam her down, but then when she's in the ship and Cassian comes in, he's like, "I see you met K2." And she says, "Yeah, lovely." He's like, "Yeah, I'm sorry about that." You know, he just says whatever comes into his circuits, and he doesn't know what I said, but he's, apologizing for it. And I do have friends like that. I have had friends where you're just like, "Oh man, what did you say now?" And I think that's it. He's just he just says what's on his mind, and he's sweet because of it. He'll say things that are offensive accidentally, I guess. I think he's like a child.
Yes. Well, I'm just now thinking it's not just that he's a child, but he's been programmed by the Empire, where it's like, you have to do this. And now he has this choice of like, get those crates.
Yeah, right.
What are you going to do?
Right. No, I don't.
The gift of autonomy.
Right.
Cassian.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that inspired, oh my God, where were we? Yemen? Remember God, when we shot Jeddah. And it wasn't Yemen. Jordan, thank you. Jordan. Yemen, no. And she throws the bag at me.
Yeah.
And I just dropped it because I'm like, I'm not holding your bag. But that was, it's funny how things come together.
Alex, it's like you said, it reminds me of like saying that K2 is like a child. And it's like when a child first learns to say no, or first learns that they don't have to do everything that their parents are telling them to do.
Right.
And that just makes all the sense. It's great.
Yeah. It's a lot of no. Yeah, I'm sure. Like in there, we'll hit that in K2 and up, where he just really is knowing a lot.
K2, the teenage years. We could
Yeah. You're not my real dad. Definitely.
It reminds me kind of like Groot.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
It's like heating up. Yeah, it's similar.
Shifting a little bit, right, to the more technical side. We were just at Stagecraft and seeing, how K-2SO is made behind the scenes, how the sausage is made in many ways. So your first appearance as K2 in Rogue One was like 9 years ago, and now you're back for the role for season 2. So did the technology change in any meaningful way for you from one production to another that helped facilitate your performance?
Nah. It probably did. It did in a way that other people were aware of, but not for me.
The suit was just as comfortable.
The suit was just as comfortable and just as fashionable. That little hat was my favorite.
What excited to get back on the stilts too, where you're like, yes, I'm so glad they did figure out a way to just make me tall.
No, I do like the stilts, actually. I really did.
Really?
We shoot in England. England rains all the time, and there'll be on these backlots huge puddles that people have to figure out how to navigate around. I just walked straight through them. They weren't going to be that deep. And yeah, I like being that tall. I enjoyed it. I missed them when they were gone. I wish I was tall. You're tall. I got a little taste. Some really sweet air up there.
Before the stilts, was it just the head that was on the
Oh,
thing up back here?
that was whenever there was a dangerous place, like in Jordan, because that was a cliff that we were all on, the real cliff.
Oh.
And they didn't want me to fall, which was nice of them. But Diego gave me so much grief about that thing because it was so cheap looking. It was just a piece of poster board with a sticker of K-2SO on that stick and the backpack. Alan, you have to take this off. Everyone's depressed. The whole crew thought they were on a huge movie. Now they look at you and it's ridiculous. Take it off. Yeah, it was the backpack of shame. So anytime there was running, like when we were in, wherever else we were in.
That's the genesis of the slap.
The slab. The real story of the slab. Like I kind of remembered it, and I remembered. So what happened was, because it was loose, he shows up on set with this cut on his lip, this little thing. And Gareth goes, "Oh, no, you don't have it." What? I came in early. I had to do a whole thing. I was like, no, that scene is cut where you get that. So you don't have a cut on your lip. It was like, well, I don't want to go take it off. I spent all this time on it. Can't I get it some other way? I said, I'll slap you. And yeah, and then it quickly came together. And then because it was all just kind of loose like that, I said that thing. I couldn't believe they put it in. And there's a fresh one if you mouth off again. And he's laughing. In the one that they used, you can see his smile. It was because he didn't expect me to say that. But he knew the slap was coming. It was to cover the looseness, which is, I love how things can kind of come together. It's just how it works.
Kind of speaking on that, what was it like to go back to Diego and have that relationship again on Andor season 2 when it's been so long since Rogue One?
Mm-hmm.
Did you pick it right up and you guys just continue on? What was that like, just stepping back into the role of K2?
Yes, we didn't have a lot of adventures, the two of us. Like all those scenes, like waking him up and stuff like that, and just playing the chess with him, those moments. But it felt early, it really did feel early. There was less of a embrace of K2, Diego's coming into that with everything around that character that's going on. It's so tense. And we didn't really have that tension on Rogue One as much because it hadn't been written. It hadn't been, at that point in the story, it is just, my God, he's been through so much and he just wants out. And I mean, we got along fine as people, but you know, we didn't have a lot of back and forth hijinks, I guess, like sparring. There's one moment that I like a lot where I say, do you know how many rules or something that we're breaking right now? Do you want to know? No. 7. And click something up. 8. That felt like the old bad too. Yeah. So we had a little bit.
Was that improv or was any of it improv or was it more scripted
You
out?
couldn't improv. You couldn't improv. I could have, but it just happened the way it happened. Was that the writer strike started, and Tony had to leave, so everything was frozen. But that back and because I'm so into my own writing, that back and forth, I pitched to Tony before I left for England, and he approved it. So I got that committed. I mean, I would have a different take for everything, but my takes can go way off into like, you know, Andor is this, I think of it as like a finely tooled machine. It really, you know, you can't, it would almost be like, you know, if it gets too crazy, it'd be like Roger Rabbit, where there's suddenly real actors and then some animated actor there that's being crazy. Like it stayed within, you know, the palette of the show.
You got to write a story for K2, didn't you? A comic or?
Oh yeah, I got to work on his dialogue.
Yeah.
I just like all of his.
Or in 2017, I think you wrote Star Wars Adventures comic.
Yeah, the kids one. Yeah, they let me. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, they had a thing on the story, and I think I mainly just did the dialogue, just because he's tough to get. Like a lot of people make him write him like C-3PO.
Yeah.
And just snarky.
Yeah.
And like a bit. It's like, ugh, I don't like that guy.
Yeah.
But it comes from a genuine place, so it's more like clown.
Like class clown.
Class clown. Yeah, that was me. Yep, like that.
Yes, impulse then. Then there's a lot of iconic hallway scenes in Star Wars, and now K2 got his own hallway scenes. So I guess how did that feel to, you know, join the pantheon of hallway scenes? And is K2 scene better than Vader's in Rogue One?
No. No way. I mean, I like mine, but that Vader scene killed. I've watched it so many times. I still don't even know how he got in there. It doesn't even make sense.
The Force.
What? You can't just phase through walls. It doesn't even make sense, but it's so great. I love it. And then he's doing all the things you've always wanted. I mean, that we could do now. Darth Vader sticking somebody to the ceiling and stab him. Come on. That was great. I mean, it's a sword fight, ultimately. That was cool.
I always think of an interview that Gareth Edwards did at one of the premieres for Rogue One, where he said, somebody asked him, how will you know if Rogue One has become a Star Wars classic? And he said something like, if in 10 years I see someone wearing a K-2SO t-shirt, I'll know that we made it.
Yeah.
And I watched that interview recently, and it really hit me, where I was like, yeah, when I think of everything with Andor, that Rogue One has become a Star Wars classic. So as being someone so involved in it, in Rogue One and now Andor, like looking back on Rogue One and just seeing the love that's never gone away for this movie, that's got to be a really great thing for you.
It really is. You know, the Star Wars world has gotten so much bigger since we made Rogue One. There have been, you know, there weren't any series at that point. The Mandalorian hadn't come out. That came out right after, I think. And so that's something else that, like, when we were, and I wonder, like, Rogue One, when I finished Andor, I was like, gotta start Rogue One.
Yeah.
Let's go right into this. And the feel of it, you know, it is a movie, but also the music is very echoes Star Wars, early Star Wars music, and it's very dramatic and very big, and it's in places where, like, just Saw Gerrera, like, puts his thing down. It's like dun dun dun, like whoa, whoa. Because in Andor, it was much more eerie and beyond creepy, and it's tense. And yeah, I wonder if it was actually in line, it would be different, you know. But I love that people still love it. I love it. there's a point in that movie where everything just starts to happen, and I keep to have such a good time.
Rewatching Rogue One after seeing all of Andor was weird because yeah, it does feel very fast at that point. You're like, wait. That was weird.
Well, what's that guy's story?
What?
Yeah.
I think we have time for one more question. If anybody has for Quinn to wrap us up?
My daughter loves Moana.
Oh yeah.
Could you do Hey Hey for us real quick?
Well,
Or are you going to bust out the mic?
no, the experience kills me. But he was on the boat and then he fell off and a lot of that. Stuff.
Thank you. Thank you. She'll love that.
Great. Yeah.
That's going to do it for this special Roundtable episode. Huge thanks again to Lucasfilm for the opportunity and to our fellow fans and creators who joined us for these incredible conversations. If you want the full story of how all of this came together, from the invite to the trip to being inside of Lucasfilm itself for nearly 9 hours, be sure to check out our companion episode, Our Trips to Lucasfilm. We take you behind the scenes of the experience, share what it meant to us, and talk through everything that didn't make it on mic. So we'll see you over there, but until then, keep the watch.